What's up, guys? What I wanted to do in this video is take some time to talk with you all about some of the things I think we can learn from the Daniel Perry case. Now, for those of you all who are not familiar, Daniel Perry was an Uber driver down in Texas that just basically had to, happened to take the wrong turn, ended up in the middle of a BLM riot where they were blocking the streets and ended up shooting one of those people there. Initially, it was thought that it would be a clear self-defense case. However, the prosecutor didn't see it that way and ended up getting him convicted on murder charges. And I wanted to look at some things that we can learn from this case, as well as tell you a little bit about where the case currently stands. It is reported that Governor Abbott of Texas is trying to pardon him. He is working to pardon him because if we get into some of this case, we're going to show you some of the things that why I agree with this. I do believe that he should be pardoned. In fact, I don't think that he should have been convicted in the first place. And I'll show you why here in just a moment. Of course, Abbott is working through the process that he has to have a request and that sort of thing to be able to pardon Daniel Perry. Now, one of the ways that they were able to convict him was because, for one thing, they twisted what he said in some conversations with friends. If you look up the full tweets, and I don't have them pulled up here, but if you look those tweets up and you compare them to what he had actually said to his friends, basically, just paraphrasing, he said that, that if he is forced to defend himself, then he would, and there again, that's paraphrasing it. Look up what he actually said. Look up what he said and then compare it to what the media is reporting about what he said, and you'll see that it's completely different. And that is how that this prosecutor got him convicted. He claimed that it was premeditated, that it was not self-defense, that sort of thing. And if we look further into the case, we'll see that that's just not the case. It clearly was not a case of where he had planned on doing this. He was literally an Uber driver. He was just happened to go to where those riots were. There again, he didn't know. And as shown in the court proceedings, things like that. And he ended up getting surrounded. One of the individuals that were there had an AK-47 and pointed it at him. Now, that alone is where some of the controversy has been as well. And again, I want to look to some of what we can show on that. First of all, that protester, Garrett Foster, who was that protester, had previously been warned about how he was carrying his firearm by police. Basically they told him that he is carrying it in a dangerous way, that he could make other people feel threatened. And remember that this is Texas, okay? I am a strong supporter of people's rights to be able to carry a firearm. In fact, I encourage it myself. However, one thing you cannot do is make someone else feel threatened deliberately with that firearm, especially because a lot of places, there are other folks out there that are carrying as well, okay? And this is the perfect example of that. I want you to look at this photo. I can't show the video because of YouTube. This is a snapshot taken from the video just prior to the incident. Over here within this red box, you can kind of see the hat here where the mouse is. This is Foster's hat. You can see his arm where he has that rifle shouldered. And this is just prior to him being shot. Again, what you also need to remember that some of the things that had happened recently that even spawned that tweet or that message to one of his friends, one of Daniel Perry's friends, was other attacks and things like that had happened down there in that area, all around Austin and things like that. We do know that there were other attacks, there were other incidences where people had been hurt, where some people had been attacked and things like that. Innocent people, innocent bystanders, people that just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. He had actually had these crowds reportedly outside of where he had lived, just right in the area where he had lived, and had seen things happen. Now, him out doing his thing, driving an Uber or whatever, he just happens to run into where one of these crowds were. I know that happens because in the past it has happened to me. Fortunately, I'm not going to say that I just happened to run into them, but because paying attention to social media, I happened to know where a group was at, so I avoided it. I did not go down in that area, and I wasn't the only one either. In fact, there was a bit of a traffic jam of people that were trying to avoid a particular area where a group had gathered. Now, when you were seeing that, when you seen that photo earlier, I want you to put yourself in this situation. You have a large group of people that have had incidents happen. You then find yourself in this crowd, surrounded by this group. If you were to simply accelerate, and that's another point that a lot of people try to bring up, they could have just drove away. If you look at the video and everything else, you'll see his car is surrounded. He is in a no-win situation, okay? If he drove through the crowd, as we have seen in other cases, in some states, there again, a lot of this depends on where you are at and where this happens at. But it has happened in other states where people that had gotten surrounded by these crowds and that had drove away and that ran a few of those people over, those folks ended up in jail themselves, charged with manslaughter or a slew of different charges. Look it up. It's out there. Different states, different laws, things like that. There again, I'm not sure what the law is there. There again, split-second decisions, knowing all of what had happened previously. Plus, this is someone that was trained by the military. He is trained to recognize a threat like this, and anyone, who would not recognize this as some kind of a threat, where you have a crowd that is surrounding your vehicle, one individual in that crowd has that firearm ready. I mean, as you saw from the photo, it was there, it was shouldered like he was ready to fire. Okay, are you going to risk your life and sit there and just let someone shoot you, or what would your reaction be? Okay, whole different ball game when you're the one sitting in that driver's seat. Okay, and there again, as I mentioned, it is a no-win situation for him. He was in fear for his life. Obviously, when someone points a gun at you, even if you go through some of these classes, some of the state concealed carry classes and things like that, I know that it even mentions within some of the legal portions of those classes, it brings up the fact that someone jokingly points a firearm at you, that you don't know that they're joking, and you perceive that to be a threat, that is a potential justification for you defending yourself. That's similar to what we have down there in Texas. He obviously felt threatened because of, there again, you have someone there in a crowd that had a history, that had previously been violent and harmed others, had a weapon shouldered at the ready as if he was going to shoot him. He fired in self-defense, called the police himself, done everything that he knew that he could do in order to get out of there. Okay? Now, there's a few other things that we need to bring up. For those of you guys that are sticking around so far, there's some other points that we need to learn from this case. Number one, if possible, get out of these cities. That's all there is to it. That's where you're seeing the majority of the stuff happen, is in these big cities, these urban areas like that. That's where the stuff is happening. Okay? Try to get out of them. I know it's hard, but it is not impossible. Okay? Pay attention to social media. Be one of those people that actually looks around to try to see if events like this are going to be happening, and if they are, avoid them at all costs. As I had mentioned earlier, I am someone that strongly supports people being able to carry firearms with them. But as I also mentioned, don't make other people feel threatened by what you do. Whether this individual had intended to threaten him or not, you see the results. Okay? Either way, regardless of the outcome of this case, he lost his life because of this. Okay? He made someone else feel threatened by his actions. As we'd seen, the police had even warned him, how you're carrying that firearm is threatening to others and it's dangerous. Because again, it is Texas. More than one person has a gun down there. Okay? That's something that we need to pay attention to as well. Yes, carry a firearm. Stay safe. Do whatever you need to do to protect yourself, but at the same time, don't make somebody else feel threatened by what you do. Okay? Be careful. Be cautious. But hopefully things work out. In my opinion, as I mentioned earlier, I do believe he should be pardoned. I do think eventually it will go through. And, I think it is a shame that we're seeing this type of malicious prosecution for defending oneself. Okay, people should not have to choose between life and spending the rest of their life in prison. Okay, that is a choice that they should not have to make. They should not have to choose between literally losing their life or spending the rest of their life in prison. Either way, they've lost their life. Self-defense is a basic human right, and this is a case of self-defense, in my opinion. But guys, that is just a few of my thoughts on it. I would love to hear yours down in the comments below. Share the video, guys. I would really appreciate it. Also, check out all the links down in the description. Thanks for watching. Let me hear from you. Check out all the videos on my channel, and we'll see you next time.